All right, and we're back. So ZoSo was just talking about how like Massachusetts has an advantage just because there's so many more events there. Um, this it goes
Just
without
because
saying.
there's more big events.
Yeah, it goes without
Yeah.
saying that this is the first time we've ever had this particular kind of event. I guess not the first because there's always been circuits, but like this kind of regional thing. So the people behind it, she and the masterminds behind this spring circuit, came up with what is it? Population tournament, the tournament turnout, how many people are there as the objective measure, and that people don't seem to be super happy about that just because of the way that the tournaments fall. But do you think that there's any other possible ways to improve it?
Well,
Um,
there's already like the system, right, by if you win your state you get in, which was theoretically meant so like Vermont people could just play themselves and then the best Vermont player gets out. But the system then still obviously favors Massachusetts people for the 8 wild cards, because the 8 wild cards will probably all be from Massachusetts.
I don't think so,
So
actually.
it'll be like 6 Massachusetts though. It'll be
It's going to be
very
mostly Massachusetts.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
But
definitely mass
yeah,
favored.
like the thing is, if the question is it mass favored? Like, look at the points. Mafia has like 300 more points than Slox, despite like I don't think taking a set off him at all in the last like 5 to 6 months.
To
I
be
don't
fair,
remember.
Slox has been in California for like
Yeah, well,
half
he
of
was
it.
in California for like 2 or 3
Mhm.
weeks.
And the circuit's still like till the end of May, I think. Right? It's a pretty long
Yeah.
event, so it
I mean,
should be pretty
I
interesting.
don't think the system is like super flawed. I just think there's a couple of people I can think of from Connecticut who are probably gonna have a hard time. They're gonna have to really like bust their ass to go to every tournament that they possibly can, and do well at all of them. Maybe with like, like I said, top 10 or like top 5 even New England talent. Just to like be able to get some points together more than like as many points as somebody would get for getting like top 8 at New Game Plus.
Mm.
But I will say,
So,
I also haven't really carefully looked at how the points break down, so I could be exaggerating there.
hmm. Tian, I was wondering how you feel because you're both like a latecomer into the circuit and in not the best region. Whereas you're obviously like one of our top players in the region and like could argue to be just like a top 16 player right now, but it'll be pretty difficult. So, what do you have any plans to try and show up to more tournaments, or how does it make you feel?
I think it's pretty fair. Like other people are working harder than I am at the moment, and it's sort of a function of like how much free time you have. Um, if I went out to more events like in New England, if I had a chance to go out to more events, I would. Um, and even before I knew a lot about the circuit, I was thinking more about like traveling out of region more. So I'm not really like I don't really have strong feelings about it because I feel like the people who are working hardest are getting to where they want to, and my goals for a long time were largely elsewhere. So, um, yeah, I actually been like considering the point about Vermont. I'd been thinking a lot about going up to Canada tournaments because
Okay.
people play so differently in different regions, and I don't know if I had a chance to talk about playing in Canada, but just like there were a lot of Sheik players and Peach players as well as Spaceys, and there's some serious talent in Canada. I went to like a Montreal tournament not too long ago, um, and it just like broadened my perspective on like how people play characters and like you know if you end up playing everyone in your region, you get good against everyone you recognize, but you have to be able to like take in new information, like what ZoSo was saying, like get a feel for what other people are doing and what's established in that area. I mean, like the sheiks in that area were like really dash dance heavy, and everyone and their mother was amazing at shield dropping. So it's like made me think about doing things like in a different way. So I might be attending more events. I'm definitely planning to go to like Mass Madness next week, but
Okay.
I haven't been. I haven't had too many opportunities to play Smash. Like even like in terms of practice, my Wii's actually broken at the moment, so I can't even like run 20XX. But
Oh,
I feel like if I have like a decent amount of practice, like within a month or so, I think I can be back in pretty good shape.
so what you just said raises an interesting point that actually Crush raised a couple weeks ago when he was on the show, that there's people
Wait,
that
Crush was on the show?
yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
Welcome back, Tian.
Things
With
things have changed.
ZoSo. It
Welcome
was
back to
great.
New England Melee. But
Like, what Crush is on the same show as ZoSo?
Yeah, it was a great
yeah,
show.
we were
All right,
shocked as
Look,
well.
I don't know where you've been, Tian, but me and Jack are like literally best friends now. So,
BFFs for life.
which I guess everybody saw coming except me. But
Yeah, but he raised the point that some players can play to kind of dominate the region and be the best that they can be, like within New England, but that might neglect the other things, which is going to more out of region tournaments and trying to level up that way and trying to get results that you can transfer onto a national level or at least
Yeah.
less of a localized level. And I think that there's a lot of merit to that, and that while the circuit's super cool for motivating people that can't necessarily travel to those, it is not necessarily the be all and end all. That's
Right.
okay, I was actually just about to ask: is like Nebulous a circuit event? Like, do people get points for that?
I believe that you only get circuit points for tournaments in the region. You would
Yeah.
have to, yeah, I think so.
I mean, I like that and I don't like that, but
Yeah, it has
that's,
its pros
and that's
and
kind of
cons.
a big conversation.
Yeah, especially with this Super Nebs was really weird, right? Because it sold out in like an hour.
Yeah, there's like
Which
3
was-
people in it.
Because the last Super Nebs, all the Super Nebs are amazing tournaments, but
Mhm.
getting a good venue in NYC is impossible. So their new one is unfortunately not big enough to hold the crowd they want to have.
I do think it's a good idea for people to travel more. Like, New England has sort of its own set style, and having traveled to, like, New York events, New Jersey events, like, people play really differently, even, like, a few states away. So I feel like if you have opportunities or, you know, resources to travel, I'm all in support of, like, doing carpools. I know people are interested in going to Pound, for example. That would be, like, a great opportunity for
I'm going to Pound.
New England up-and-comers. Yeah. You're going to Pound, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I just recently found a new job, which is the
Nice.
schedule actually works out 100% perfect, which was like
Awesome.
the main linchpin of me being able to go to big tournaments for the
Nice.
next couple of months. So I'm definitely going to Pound.
When is Pound, by the way? For those of us that
April.
don't know.
April 2 and 3.
Glad to hear it. It's all
So-
the way down in, like, it's, like, in Maryland, right?
Yes.
It's in Virginia.
Yeah, it's one of those states. One of the trifecta.
So Pound, amazing tournament series for those of you that haven't seen the videos of D1 yelling bear at Pound 5. They've all been amazing. But I want to take this moment to segue into our next topic, which is commentary and what we want to see in commentary and what we don't want to see necessarily.
Did you guys watch Beast? And then there was
yeah.
that French guy. I don't know
I
his
did
name.
watch Beast, and I thought I got the same feeling I got watching Apex 15, where I was just like, man, Leffen is like the best player in the world by so much, and then he just lost.
I got that.
What about the
too.
commentary at Beast?
Does
I
anyone know that
honestly-
French guy's name though? He was so hype, but he couldn't speak English that well. But it made it more hype. It was great.
I was in
Yes.
favor of that as well. Like people really, I saw this posted Melee It on me that they're like completely hating on this guy. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, he's so excited he can't talk words. It's just
And he was
coming
actually
out.
I
he was
don't
really
I don't
smart
know.
too.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but pretty much 80 to 90% of what the Smash community does is hate on commentators or just talk about commentators in general. So if people don't like this guy, that's kind of like, you know,
Par for the course.
yeah, right.
All right.
I don't know.
Stinks.
I have pretty complicated feelings on Smash commentary, but the prevailing one is that none of our commentators are very good.
Oh, so what
Wow.
would be the advice you would give to them to maybe make them less not good?
I don't know. I mean, like everybody wants to hear different things, but for me, it's like I just think like you just need to respect the audience, and that means like not having to explain every little minor thing every time it comes up during a set. I mean, kind of like I don't know if this is. No, actually, this definitely isn't specific to Smash, but the whole like commentators who just kind of make banter thing is definitely prevalent in Smash. But I don't know. The weird thing is, all of our good players are currently competitors, so you don't see too many of them on the commentator's desk, which I think would help. But like, I don't know. I've seen and heard so much amazing commentary for other games, like games that I knew nothing about, and I just walked away from it being like feeling like I knew so much more about it, and like I respected the players so much more.
Right.
Like if you watch like any of the recent Brood War casts that they've done, like they had a show match. It was like Effort and Bisu played. Like Bisu is one of the greatest Brood War players ever, like
Yeah.
ever to actually put his hands on the game.
Dirty.
And
Protoss.
the commentator, the
Dirty
commentators were-
Protoss, is that what I heard?
yeah. The commentators were Tasteless and Artosis, and like Artosis was like formerly like a top North American player. I'm pretty sure Tasteless was really good too in his day, but they touched on so many like really nuanced things about the matchup and talked about like things that were so advanced that the players were doing that you might like as like kind of a casual observer you might see it and not think anything of it or not even realize that anything had happened because that game is like ridiculously absurdly detailed and really really hard to play. Really hard to play.
So on that note, I like you said, everyone's looking for different things in commentary, right? My first exposure to commentary was also in StarCraft Brood War. This was back in 2005, but it was in Korean, and like my Korean is passable, but I could not. They talk so fast, right? If you ever heard a Korean Brood War cast, they're like screaming a million miles a minute into the microphone. Imagine like what is it? Latin American soccer or football. It's just like they
so
go
amazing.
nuts.
Sometimes they just like scream like SCV!
Yeah, it's the best, and like they talk so much, and like even as someone who didn't understand a lick of what was being said, I was like, oh my god, I want to play this game. I want to watch this. This is amazing, and like I agree that so Tasteless and Artosis have been around forever, and they are professionals. They get paid to do their job. No one at New Game Plus is getting paid to commentate. So on that note, I just want to leave that as an aside. But like even then, I don't think you need to necessarily be a professional or a near top level player to have professional or really good commentary. I think it helps.
You don't, but I think you need to know something about the game that you're commentating.
Yes, I think that you definitely need to be a passable player, and you need to be able to follow what's going on, which is really hard in Melee a lot of the time because it's just so crazy.
I mean, you don't even necessarily need to like be able to play. You just need to be like a good analyst and like just like know what you're talking about.
I think the League of Legends casters are pretty good. Like I think they say just enough to reflect like current trends in like the metagame.
Yeah.
And they leave like the audience to like, you know, figure everything else out for themselves. But also I like the fact that in Dota 2, they have separate streams for learning and for, you know, high level commentary, I guess. Where,
That's amazing.
Yeah, like that honestly requires like a ton of resources, you know, and coordination to pull off.
That we don't have.
But if we, you know, like if in the future like that was
did.
a possible option at like the biggest nationals, that would be like I would imagine a lot of people who were thinking about Smash might be pulled in by like by that kind of commentary.
I know Apex has done multi-language streams before, and Big House did kid-friendly and non-kid-friendly commentary. So it's definitely been done before. They could just, I don't know. They should try it. It's definitely not worth it at like our own local though, right? Because our stream numbers are
it's hard to find
so
even
low.
two commentary. Said like Medium Plus. Everyone's just there to fiend. Everyone just wants to play.
So I want to take this opportunity to say the one thing that I think completely kills Melee commentary for me when I'm like tuning in, whether it's our stream or it's Blur or whoever. But it's when they get caught up on this minutia that no one cares about, right? Like Melee is so fast and so many things happen at once. You can choose to talk about anything you want. You can choose about the player's mindset. You can choose to talk about this cool tech thing. You can just be screaming because Melee's hype, right? You could just do the Scar thing and just talk about your day and your sandwich or whatever. But the thing
I love Scar, so
yeah, I love Scar's commentary, and like he's whatever.
I just love Scar, and the reason I like his commentary is because that's pretty much exactly who he is. Like it's not doctored,
yeah,
or like affected at all. He's just It's just who he is.
I feel like Scar thinks with exclamation points in mind.
He
Yeah.
really he's a Falcon player through and
Yeah,
through.
he's very
But, like,
emphatic.
This is something that Scar doesn't do, right? Like he doesn't go about, oh, he should have done this weird technical super frame perfect thing to punish this, and he didn't do that, so he's bad. And like looking down on the players because they didn't do this minutia. Like even when you hear someone like Mango or PP commentate, they're like, oh, they didn't do that, they could have done that, but that's hard. It's okay. Melee's hard, right? Like that's kind of the way they look at the game. And sometimes like. I mean, if Mango or PP isn't criticizing them and saying, "Oh, they suck," then who are we to be like, "Oh, they're terrible for having dropped this edge guard. They're terrible." Like you can do it
Right.
if you're funny, but like don't shit on people because they made mistakes in a game. And like
I feel like Scar.
hate that.
No, shit on people because they made mistakes in the game. Do
I
it.
feel like Scar would probably like commentate in a really similar way for like high level matches and mid level matches because he doesn't. You're right. He doesn't really like criticize people too much or like talk about what they should be doing or what they're doing wrong. He's just like it's a very stream of consciousness, like whatever's going on the top of his head.
Oh, the other thing, Tasteless is hilarious, which helps a lot. He's really
Yeah.
funny, and he's also an excellent analyst. So
Takes a certain
Yeah.
kind of personality.
I would kill to have Kevin M on the microphone for New Game Plus every week.
Yeah,
So
he'd be amazing.
I think he
Well-
would be like Kevin M and like some other guy. I don't care.
Makari.
Someone else.
one
Someone else.
thing
who's,
I
like-
think we should maybe consider, like, is having. I don't know if anybody's really done this, but like, if a good player is going to show up, just say like, look, if you would be willing to commentate the whole night instead of competing, then we'd pay you.
Oh yeah, I would love that idea. I mean, Big Blue
That's
has-
something to think about, you know.
That's like what Wobbles has
I
been
feel like
doing,
most
right?
people would turn that down, but some people might be like some people might like that idea.
Yeah, it would really depend on the player.
Yeah, New England's like really hungry. Maybe at Mass Madness or something, people might be down for that.
All right, moving on to tournament results. I think the big thing that kind of I don't know if it surprised anyone. I don't think it surprised anyone, but Crush is a 3-peat on New Game Plus, and he seems to
Three.
have no signs of slowing.
If anybody was surprised by that, then you haven't been paying attention very well. Is all I'm gonna say.
I agree. Like he hasn't been showing up very much, and he got that 25th place at Mass Madness, which I mean, that's
I don't
Fox.
think
Yeah, let's-
anyone like
let's not
really
talk
held
about
that
that.
against him.
Yeah. Except
Did
for
anyone
Crush.
like see Crush get 25th and thought, well, I guess he sucks now? Like,
I probably may have messaged him and told him that he sucks. I
but
don't
did anyone
actually
like
think he
legit
sucks.
believe that? Yeah.
I mean, he didn't like. I didn't give him any more shit than he gave me when I got like 33rd at that Yukon tournament or whatever. So
Oh, was that the one that Kenlit or something like
the one where
God.
Ken let double force talked me.
Oh my God! Were you playing
really?
I
Pikachu?
considered quitting Melee.
I would probably quit Melee.
I think he messaged
after
me
that.
afterwards, like saying that
I'm pretty sure he
Taking a
messaged
big
literally everybody on the Eastern Seaboard. So you're not alone in that one.
my goodness.
So aside from ZoSo's never going to a Yukon tournament again.
No, I'm going to a Yukon tournament again. That was just not a good day for me.
Yeah. So Crush is, I think, consensus best player in Mass, and he was for a while, but he didn't really have the results to back it up to be so convincing, right? Like he split sets with Mafia before, but now he seems to be pulling away, and I think this might be the state of things in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, again, I don't think that's surprising at all. Crush has always been amazing, and I think he does put in the work when he's not at tournaments, so it's not that surprising.
I think, I will say, I think if Jack gets knocked on his ass, I don't think Mafia is going to be the one to do it, unfortunately. I could see Pedro, but the last couple of times they played, it was like really dominant in Crush's favor.
What about like Matt or something?
I don't know. I know
Yeah.
numbers can beat him.
That's
I'm
true.
gonna
Wow.
do it when
Numbers can
people
beat him.
stop cheesing me.
And like, yeah, I
That
mean,
never
like,
happens though. Cheese is
Theo-
an integral part of the game. Look at
I
me.
get.
Theo is
people
super
played
good.
with honor. I would be the best player in the world.
What are you talking about?
What do you feel like
Honor?
lose
You
to
wouldn't
that's
play this game.
dishonorable, Theo?
You're the least
Whatever.
honorable player in the. Anyways.
What are you talking about?
everybody
talking
feels
about
that
your
way about
COD strats.
Howard. The thing you need to understand is that everybody feels that way about the people they play with the most.
That's true. Every dirty trick in the book.
Yeah.
All right.
But what was really crazy was Makari had a huge upset in winter semis.
Dude. God, I love
I
Makari.
think it's not even going to be considered an upset in the near future. I know Mafia,
That's
if he hears
true.
that, is going to be super
Yeah,
like, no.
he beat Mafia, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
But ZoSo, I think, we talked about this before, right? Like, Makari has the style of, and he looks like a top player in a lot of what he does. But then he just gets hit by stuff and, like, dies.
I think so too. He
And-
he kind of like doesn't know when enough is enough. And
Mhm.
once things start going badly for him, he kind of like he stops moving. He does like the classic Marth thing, you know. It's like, oh no, he's at like too much %, or I got hit a couple of times. I'm just gonna stop moving and swing my sword a lot.
I think Marth, more than any other character in the game, has like a J-shaped curve for like effort to results, right? Like how good you are versus the results you get. Because the difference between killing someone at 40% or 60% with Marth versus like, oh, they're at 130% and I just lost 2 stocks for no reason, is like a pixel. And that happens all the time. And it's like, it's just, you just need to be so precise. And I think he's really crashing through. And like when I play him every week, like I've been playing for them for like the last year and a half, and like every week I think, man, you got so much better. But like my sometimes just things just don't go slightly right, and now they're just going right for him, and I think that's really exciting to see.
Yeah, I think so too. He's an excellent guy. We're lucky to have him here in the Northeast. And I don't know, like the fact that Marth matches turn out like that is not really like out of necessity. I think people just need to kind of remember to try to play the end of their stock more like the way they played the beginning of their stock. You know, like don't abandon all the stuff that was working just because it's not going to give you easy kills. But anyway, sorry, moving on. I just wanted to add that tidbit.
Well, it was really cool. They did a post-game interview, which was Makari interviewing Crush, but then they kind of co-interviewed each other throughout it. But they both did really well, and I hope Big Blue keeps doing these post-tourney interviews because I thought that was really fun. But in that interview, Makari said that he'd paid attention to a lot of Mafia's habits in his past games, and he was able to really abuse that in the first set. But in the second set, Mafia just adapted and got the best of him, unfortunately. But it wasn't... I think it was a 3-0, but it was like a close-ish 3-0.
It was a 3-0, and Makari kind of dropped the third game, is what I remember seeing.
I remember seeing lots of Stitch faces, but I can't objectively critique a Peach player's skill very easily. It takes a lot for me to do that.
You just see the red and everything goes.
Yeah.
So something that we haven't talked about yet on the cast that we usually save towards the end is like the juicy kind of nitty-gritty of what makes a player good, right? Like what gets you good. And
We talk about that every week.
That's true. But this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and that people have been talking to me about. And it's like when I play people in certain matchups, it's very clear they just don't know how to space around my character, or maybe in any matchup. And like these are players that might be considered to be pretty good, and they might have really tech skill and be able to like double shine or whatever. But they just don't know how to not be in places that are bad for them, and don't know how to put themselves into situations that are good for them. And like that's a really hard concept to describe. Is what is spacing, right? Like, so I want so to someone who just has like no concept of what spacing is, like how would you explain that to someone? And like Tian, you play a really spacing based game. Like how would you describe your spacing to someone who's like, oh, I don't know what melee is?
I feel like spacing is, it's oftentimes like a function of your range and what your opponents think you'll be throwing out. So it's just like this aura around you that just presents your threat zone. And different characters are obviously going to have like different like ranges. There's those heat maps that show like the aerials out of shield and everything. That's like a decent perception. That's a decent like visualization of that. But as far as spacing is concerned, like because I play like in a really heavily spacing based style, it's just sort of like you can't spaceball without having like a very fine understanding of like what your opponents are going to do. So it's not just like hitting people with like the maximum range of your attacks. It's like it's like being able to actualize your game plan with like the minimum amount of counterattack possible. So that's largely like what I see as like spacing in Smash. It sort of bleeds into like what pressure means as well, because oftentimes it's virtual and it's not like what moves you throw out, but what moves you can represent.
I think that's a pretty important point, but I'll let you finish.
Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah. And I guess in Melee, because it's this is also like comparable in like Street Fighter, but just because you can hit someone doesn't always mean that like you should offer to trade with them. That's like really apparent in some matchups more than other ones. But
Yes,
that's
most
also
definitely.
sort of knowing like how to bite off just enough for you to get a good situation and like just watch your opponent rather than going ham and like trying to go for crazy combos. I feel like if people didn't go for that nearly as often, a lot of people would improve drastically. But whatever you can do to like simplify that aspect of your game and to like realize that enough is enough, that helps greatly as a player.
So, Dave, you had something you wanted to say?
I mean, I pretty much agree with everything Tian said. The only thing I object to is the idea that, like, I don't think it's so much about what your opponent is going to do, but more like what they could conceivably do. So, like, you're talking about, like, the heat maps of, like, aerials out of shield and stuff. I think that's a good start, but I would go, like, a step further. And if you look at, like, I don't know, I feel like when we when we talk about Smash on the stream, I end up referencing Street Fighter a lot, but there's
That's
a
okay.
lot of like good generic like common sense in fighting games that a lot of Smash players could benefit from, but the basis of it is like spacing goes hand in hand with like the idea of zoning, and the idea of like positioning. And I think if I had to really explain it to somebody, like, spacing 101, it's basically the fundamental idea is that you're trying to put yourself in a range where you can hit them, but they can't hit you. Or if they have, this is like usually where the idea of bad matchup starts to happen, because if they have more range than you, like pretty much across the board, then you need to just take like manageable risks and try to put yourself in ranges where your moves are effective. But that's pretty much what it is, just trying to put yourself in positions and ranges where your moves are effective.
I really like that thing you said just now about being in a space where you can hit them, but they can't hit you. Now,
Yeah,
obviously,
that's the ideal,
yeah, every matchup is not going to have that for both characters, right? Like Marth is just going to outrange Peach all the time, always, right? There's never going to be a situation of like I can hit Marth, but Marth can't hit me.
Oh no, because
there's so much you can do.
turnips,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Turnips are a
That
move.
is true. But like if
Yeah, well, so turnips, here's the thing. So like turnips are a threat far away. Think about like the ranges in between. This is the other thing that Street Fighter players are great about. It's like kind of mentally dividing the stage into like zones where different things, like different options are a possibility, and also whether or not you can react to the option at those ranges matters.
So if I was going to crystallize spacing, the way I think about spacing in like one sentence is that if you're in some place where you can't react to what they're going to do, then you are either in a bad space, or if what you're doing that they can't react, you're also in a space where you're doing something that they can't react to, but yours is better. Like if like whatever, like better can mean a dozen things, right? Like maybe it hits harder, maybe it's going to beat out what they do. Yeah. But if you're in a position where if both players can't react and yours is better, you're in a good space. Or if you're in a place where you can hit them and they can't hit you, you're in a good space.
I think that's also where the idea of pressure starts to kind of manifest.
Yeah. And if you have a range advantage, that's the easiest way, so to speak, or a speed advantage, that's the easiest way of leveraging spacing. But just being a harder hitter or a harder punisher, by nature of your character or your abilities, I think that you can leverage to your advantage as well in spacing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one of the players that I didn't really expect to see that from was Kage. I got to play him last month at Montreal, and he just like getting to play with him and like really see what he was doing. He understood spacing on a really like on a level that was like a few steps beyond how I saw it, and he also knew how to like take up space and like to make you feel afraid and to like to goad you into doing something like that he's already waiting for. So as far as spacing, like obviously, I feel like whenever he hit my shield with an aerial, whether it was like down air, forward air, back air, whatever it was, he just always like could contort himself in a way such that the obvious options weren't going to work. And that's not to say that you can't do anything against like Ganondorf's aerials. That's just patently untrue. But he always made it like he understood that aspect of spacing on his character, and he always like made things tricky with regards to like how like what would happen upon his landing. Something else I was really impressed with Kage. I know this is like a bit like off topic with regards to spacing, but the idea of like being able to push people to certain parts of the stage and then just to draw out reactions from them.
I think that's definitely tied into spacing.
It is,
That's
yeah.
the goal of spacing, so to speak.
Like Kage would often like walk or wave dash towards you, like if you're facing the edge, and just make you feel uncomfortable about his normals and about his jump ins. But he wouldn't even really be looking to hit you. He would just be willing, like he was a lot more willing to scare you into like rolling or spot dodging. And I think the conversion rate of like of how often he like hit you after you spot dodge or like roll was just like above 80%. So that was something that I just like realized like, wow, nobody that I get to play with any sense of like frequency does this in such a refined way, and this is like a manifestation of both his spacing game and his punish game. So really impressed with him.
Side note, Kage plays Street Fighter.
Yeah,
he
I see
does
that
play
I see that in his style like really heavily. Yeah, and it just made me like think about pressure in just like an unimagined way.
So Melee players sometimes know frame data, right? Like they know Shine is 1 frame, right? They might know Box Out Smash is 7 frames. But I don't think that it's very helpful to think about those frame data, that particular kinds of frame data, in the way that it's helpful to think about it in more traditional games like Street Fighter. Because when you think of frame data in Melee, it's like, oh, what combos, what can I do out of shield, whatnot. In Street Fighter, if you know that this jab is 3 frames and this jab is 4 frames, that means that in this, if you're both in the same space, so to speak, player X's jab will be player Y's jab, right? It's
Right.
like that. That's what frame data means in Street Fighter more than so it's like learning how to leverage your advantages in space, knowing that, and that's something that Melee players very frequently don't do. Is knowing which moves will beat other moves in certain situations and respecting that. Like the most obvious thing in the game that as a Peach player happens to me all the time is they just don't respect crouch cancel down smash, and they like don't respect that spacing. And they try to do something without spacing around it. And like maybe that's because they don't know about it, but it's like if they don't respect it, then I'm just gonna keep abusing that over and over. And maybe they'll be able to restrict that, but not be able to restrict dash attack or whatnot. And it's like it's knowing what your opponent's tools are that you can't beat by seeing it fast enough and playing around it like that.
I think that gets less true as the level of play increases, but I also think like frame data always has to be considered in context. And one of the things about Melee is that I think because of how challenging and like kind of weird to analyze the game is, there's a lot of things that will work a lot even if they like quote unquote shouldn't. Like you see
Right.
people people getting shield grabbed at pretty much every level of play, even though if you like analyze frame data, like it should probably just never work. But I don't know. Melee is kind of a weird case. But I would probably agree that it matters more in Street Fighter, but that's mainly because ground moves are way more frequently safe or even advantage on block in Street Fighter.
Right. I was gonna say like characters like Samus would probably benefit a lot from like knowing the ins and outs of her frame data. especially-
Knowing how easily Fox can wave dash into Shine out of shield against her moves. Because he can do it against like all of her moves.
Wow, didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I was
Okay.
gonna say like with regards to frame data, it's something that often helps me think about like situations after I've played Melee already and I'm just reviewing a match or watching things and like seeing like why did this work? Why would this work? it's like if you obsess over frame data like while you're playing, it's just gonna bog you down. You can't process the game fast enough. So it has to be something that like you think about like when you have like the timing conditions to do it.
All right, and with that, we are almost out of time, but we have a special section lined up for all of you guys today, which is viewer questions. And we will be taking questions from the chat. Everyone here will be taking one question each. But we'll start with the Facebook questions, the ones that people asked ahead of time. And I think, Theo, you get
we have a lot of Facebook questions.
That's true.
But I want to talk about Matt's question, because he wrote this great long post on, like, controlling space, and basically you just walk forward so the other person's scared of your moves. What we were just spent the whole time talking about, and what Tian was covering on, like, just taking space instead of trying to hit them to set up for better stage control that'll lead into even better punishes, instead of going for the quick, maybe risky thing. So he wrote this very long post, but his question, his amazing question was, why aren't players in New England, or let's see, let's go find the exact question, just so I don't butcher it in its amazing glory.
Aside from a small number of players, why does it seem that New England players don't focus on controlling and playing around empty space as much as players from other regions?
Okay, so that's a useless question, right? Why do you care about what people in New England are specifically doing in their gameplay? It has nothing to do with like being in this region. It's just a specific player mindset and skill level thing. That's like asking, why did this person who just picked up the game not L cancel? It's because they're bad. We could have
Why
a great
did this
discussion.
person from Boston eat McDonald's today?
Because it's fucking delicious.
Like, the reason that we're bad at it is because our region is bad, and not many people do it.
Yeah.
Like the thought of have a great discussion. What are the benefits of thinking about Melee in a space-related way? That's a great discussion. So I think that's what he meant. But
I
just
think
the way
along
he worded
those
his
lines,
question-
I think if people aren't thinking about it, it's probably because nobody is talking about it.
Yeah. So there's also that, like, other regions, to specifically answer his question, it's other regions are better and have more top players and are more willing to share this information. But I don't think that's really what he was asking. I think what he really wanted to know is, like, what are the benefits of thinking about the game this way?
All right.
I kind of want to answer Lenny's question. If that's okay. Yeah. So for a read-heavy style, what are anyone's favorite ways of appearing unsafe to bait out an approach, and what measure does one take to minimize risk when conditioning your opponent? So this is pretty interesting because it has to do with like pressure and also understanding like what characters are capable of. I agree with ZoSo here that shield grabs work more often than they should. It's like the obvious answer to this one is like doing an aerial that's got pretty good mild frame disadvantage or something like that, and then just dashing away. That's like a tool that's good on almost everyone who's like a good character. All the top 8 characters benefit from being aware of that, and that's again something that I don't see everyone in our region like abusing. But there's obviously play and counterplay to strategies like that. But I think it's a really good intersection between knowing frame data and actually being able to like apply what you know to like situations that are processable, where you'll know that this is possible and other people might not. An example I was going to offer is, for example, on Samus, if you forward air from the edge and then up B, there's pretty much not anything characters can do unless they unless they shield your entire forward air and also shield your up B. And at that point, they have to like guess where you're gonna land and stuff like that. But that's the kind of thing where it's like that's a pretty like tempting bait to want to like just be like, well, there's no way she can counterattack out of this, but actually she can. And the later
there's no way she can be invincible frame 1 here.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
So I think little things like that just like reflect like deep character knowledge and just deep situational awareness. Those are my favorite ways of appearing unsafe. And other things like related to like auto cancel aerials and stuff, things that look incredibly laggy. If you started off like early enough in a full jump or something, well, there's actually not landing lag apart from just like there's no L cancel related lag if you started up early enough. So things like that are really good to think about. Oh God, seriously, right?
Yeah. On that note, I think I actually really like this question as well. So my favorite way of appearing unsafe is to just do something unsafe, right? Like just go dash attack them, and then, like don't do this all the time. I'm not saying just dash attack them all the time, but if you do it like once, hit or miss, they'll be like, oh crap, he's willing to just dash attack me, and they'll have to think about it all the time. Like if you're playing too safe and they're not respecting your quote unquote unsafe options and they're just charging you or whatever, then you gotta make them respect it. Just do it, right? Like, if it messes up and you get punished, then maybe do it less. But if it hits them, even if you never hit them with again, it's already partially doing its job because it's already doing its job. Because this is something that Mango does all the time. He just does something that's horribly unsafe, right?
Wait,
and
who
then
does that?
Mango.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, not
that's
like all
debatable.
the time, but like he does something that's crazy, and then you get hit by it, you get styled on, you're like, oh my god, I should never get hit by that. Maybe not Mango, but like Matt, okay? Like someone,
Yeah.
just
I
someone
think
that does
there's
this
a lot of stuff that happens before Mango starts doing that stuff that
Yeah.
probably warrants mention.
But anyways, so the point is, you can do something super unsafe every now and again, if you don't think they'll be able to respond to it, and then they'll have to like look out for that, in the future. So that's just one option you can do.
I feel like Dr. Peepee is a really good player to watch if you want to learn more about how to appear unsafe.
Want to learn how to take smart risks and be a total genius and never lose, then yeah, Dr.
Both on
Peepee.
offense and on defense.
Yeah, he's incredible. I could
agree.
talk for an extremely long time about him, but I want to take a question, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
From user DJDK writes, ZoSo, thoughts on Roy? Heard him in the background earlier. Yeah, I have people at my apartment playing Melee right now. I think Roy is maybe the worst character,
Wow.
but he has a pretty good. He has some stuff about him that's really good. I think he's kind of underdeveloped. Tech chasing and like he has a pretty good hack stash. Learning to like find reasonably good ways to like tech chase with forward smashes kind of consistently. But I'm pretty sure any somewhat floaty character could beat Roy by camping the top platform, unlike Dreamland. And that's I think like Bowser could probably camp the top platform and beat Roy, which is like hilarious to think about.
Well, Bowser has one good move and Roy has 0. So
Well, Roy
Yeah.
has 0 good moves in the air.
Mhm.
And also,
Wait, could Roy beat Bowser like spamming ledge attack into up B resets on Yoshi's?
well, ledge attack is. Oh yeah, that's a gimmick. That's definitely a gimmick.
Yeah,
But
can Roy
also,
beat
real
it?
quick to Bonk. I think Marth Puff is worth learning, but not if you're not going to main Marth.
Wait, oh, he's asking about Pikachu Puff.
No, he's
That doesn't
asking about
seem like
Marth Puff, and if I think it's worth learning as a counter pick, and no, I don't think so. But I do think Marth wins, but I don't think it's like a good pocket character to have. If you want a pocket character to beat Puff, just play Fox. Okay, I'm going to go play Melee with the people who are currently at my house. So
That's good.
it was
Okay.
fun, guys. I'll see you next week.
all right,
Alright,
later,
bye.
Zoso.
Yeah, take care.
Theo,
well,
unless
we
you had a
could-
burning question to answer, I think this is as good a time as any.
Well, we can do. Well, I just wanted to tell Bonk that I don't think Pikachu Puff is hopeless. It's definitely a losing matchup. I think Pikachu Peach is hopeless, but Pikachu Puff doesn't seem too bad. It seems pretty bad, but not any worse than every other terrible Pikachu matchup.
Which is what you signed up for.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's just like when you play a mid tier, like you're going to have a certain level of like stupid crap used on you, and I don't think Puff's level of stupid stuff is any worse than any other characters, except for Peach. I think is really bad for Pikachu.
And also Ice Climbers.
I think Ices is the one. All right.
Oh, yeah. So, shoutouts.
Yeah, shoutouts. I want to
Okay.
shout out the Melee community at large, the New England Melee community, for rallying together and buying Makari part of a new car. You guys are the best, and to give back to someone who's given so much to the community, shout outs to us. We did good.
Yeah. Shoutouts to let's see who do I want to shout. Oh, shoutouts to my sister. It's her birthday today. Happy
Yay,
birthday.
Happy birthday.
And shout outs to Tazio because he messaged me and told me to shout him out.
Cool.
I think I'm gonna shout out like Montreal. I had a really good time playing with them, and I learned a lot from all their players. Really helped me to think about Sheik, Peach, and Spacies, and Ganondorf in different ways. Had a great time doing that. So all the TOs there, like Tranimal, Kage, Spicy Hungarian, they were a lot of fun to play against. So, and Simo for being like a bro on teams.
All right. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. You guys are the best. We will see you this time next week.
Yeah. Good night.
Bye.